So, I just want to talk about mental health. Because if we are going to talk about guns and gun violence and what we should do about it, if we're going to have that conversation, we also need to be having the conversation around mental health, right? Because, first of all, the GOP wants to push all conversation about gun regulation onto mental health, right? So if it is about the mental health of people, why aren't we investing in the mental health of people? Why are we investing in more guns, right? Why are we getting donor money from gun manufacturers? You know? And the answer to those questions are found in conversation and in delving deeper than a political point, and delving into the soul of the issue, the root cause of the issue, the root of all that is, right? Which is that we are an extension of a settler colonial experiment. And we are currently living in the reality that is that. We are currently living in a diaspora of refugees and immigrants. I'm talking about America, of course, because this is a global issue in my opinion, but in no way is gun violence a global issue the way that it is in America, because most of the guns are brought there by America. You know, whether it's through our military or through our arms dealing. Right? So if people kill people, and it's not the gun's fault, it's not the AR-15's fault that it can shoot and kill so many people so quickly, right? It's not their fault. It's not the gun's fault. It's not the machine's fault. It's the person holding the machine, right? So if it's the person holding the machine, what are we doing as a collective to address the people behind the machine? Because usually the people behind the machine, I'm just talking statistics now, right? Just purely based off of what we're watching, right? It's mostly men. Yeah. And mostly folks who are aligned with white supremacist delusion and maintenance, which, by the way, is the entire point of the empire, right? It's how capitalism and these systems that we see at play here, these sadistic folks who are aligned with white supremacist delusion and maintenance, which, by the way, is the entire point of the empire, right? It's how capitalism and these systems that we see at play here, these sadistic systems that we all continue to play into. It is a cycle. These things come up always during election seasons. We are always reminded that voting is the way that we can solve these things. But even when we vote in record droves, people who we vote into office act like there's nothing that they can do. We have no competent leadership on conversations. And I mean, like, having real conversations where we can both be wrong, because I think we're all trying to figure out, I think the collective, the majority of us, don't want to live in a reality where people can pull up on us and kill us and our kids at graduations and at school and wherever else, right? We don't want to live in perpetual fear of automatic rifles being brought to a function. So if the GOP is going to continue to make the conversation about regulation about mental health, then we need to actually talk about mental health. This is another thing about, like, pro-life, right? You cannot bring up pro-life and then not want to have a real life conversation about real life children being real life murdered, because you're making real life profit off of real life death. Because at the end of the day, it's all noise. They're profiting off of this. The media profits off of it. The police, the state, the empire. They profit. And so as long as they profit, there's not going to be a change, because capitalism is about increasing profit. Increase in profit, exploitation of labor, exploitation of working class folks. And that's what we're seeing right now with inflation. Inflation is a concept, baby. Markets are made up by people who want to make more money. We talk about shit like it is what it is. It's not what it is. It's the people who already make the most money wanting to make more money. That's all it is. It's hoarding. It's sadistic. It's criminalization of homelessness, while the housing market is just absolutely astronomous, like preposterous. We are looking at things. I mean, I'm from Miami. I'm seeing what's happening in Miami. I'm like, because rich people want to live there and make more money, because the government wants more money. Because, guys, you have to understand, states are corporations, incorporated, baby. They make money, and they have budgets, and they can choose to spend that money on whatever they want. And they choose to use these moments to gaslight us and convince us that the solution to the delusion and insanity that it takes to have a society where children are picking up AR-15s and feeling like foot soldier vigilantes, right? And killing kids. All right? In a society where that is a reality, that the further militarization of these spaces, the further militarization of cops, and the investment in more security and more guns, and the concept of a good guy with a gun, right? Without mental health, without addressing mental health at all? Oh, baby, no. We are truly going to be in a consistently devastating circumstance if we continue to ignore the root issue here, right? The root issue is that we're living in a psychosis, a collective psychosis of cognitive dissonance, and we're not connecting the dots between toxic, abusive relationships that we watch play out on the screen as entertainment, right? We don't see the connection between that and why a kid would show up with a fucking AR-15 to a school and kill 20-something people and injure an entire collective on a conscious level, on a psychological level. Because this is collective PTSD that we're going through as well, right? Fear frequency. It is fear frequency, and it is going to continue to infect us until we start dissolving our fears and insecurities and pain. The suffering that has gone on across the board throughout history that is completely unaddressed and swept under the rug, and we pretend like it never happened, it's going to continue to do that until we talk about it. That is how trauma cycles happen. That is how abuse cycles happen. That is how intergenerational trauma is a thing. That is why racism, classism, sexism, and all of the ableism and all of the isms are able to continue to exist and thrive, because they maintain the fear frequency. They maintain the empire. And we, as a collective, need to talk about what we are going to do to challenge this reality. Because I don't want kids if they're going to grow up in a world like this. And I want kids. And that fucks me up. I just think that we need to have real conversations about the roots and the connections between the things that we are processing as a collective on such a public scale. And I think we need to be, I think leaders need to be more cognizant of the way that we talk about things. And I think that we all need to be okay with being wrong about some things in the process of learning to be better. Because right now, everybody's in denial and everybody is ready to fight but not solve. And I know everyone that I know is exhausted, emotionally exhausted, watching just the constant tragedy, you know? And especially the way that the media chooses to report it, which is just, I mean, in my opinion, just savage. Completely, like, OD, like, in your face trauma. And exploitation of trauma. And rewriting of trauma. And dramatization of trauma. And all the movies and serial killer docs and all, you know what I mean? Like, you know, to each their own, but like, we gotta talk about why we as a collective are so fascinated by so much death and why it's profitable for them. Anyways, that's what I feel like saying right now. I don't know.